Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. It is far past time to welcome to Rogue Ways a man who reached out of the hordes of anonymous internet folk, dropped some truth in my lap, and changed my entire life. This Norse bit of godliness made flesh has battled a lifetime of wars, only to come out the other side rife with skills and wisdom ain't none of our masters want any of us to have. What's even better, he wants to spread those nuggets of gold to everyone he possibly can. A friend since the birth of time, a sage guide along the path, a reminder to look deeper at what's really going on in this strange realm, a visionary, a seer, a magical being of wizardly ways and alchemical wonders, a seeker and a warrior for truth, one of my dearest friends and all-time heroes, Benjamin Balderson. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. Holy cow, Linz. That was absolutely amazing. As
I
are
outdid
you.
myself. Oh, thank you.
And yes, this has been a long time in coming right here.
Yes, it's finally happening. I feel like it's the perfect time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It seemed like it seemed like it should have happened right away, but then there just was no reason. It was like something was waiting and for both of us, now is the time.
True. Agreed. I love it. All right. Before we jump in, I want to remind everyone that you can support my work at patreon.com/rogueways or at paypal.me/Corey Sharman, which is QUORRISCHARMYN. And you can check out more of my work at rogueways.org and in the Eyes Open Facebook group, where we have curated a lively and loving community of open-minded, critical thinkers. I can't wait to see you all around there. And I deeply appreciate and love each and every one of you. And I thank you for your support. You are the true power in the world. Don't forget it.
My love also for the Eyes Open.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with our pointless question of the episode as usual. I'm going to ask you, Ben, which animal would you never, ever, ever want to raise and why? I know you raise a lot of animals, so I wanted to know.
Absolutely. I catch quite a few comments about Noah's Ark at my house and such. And if I'm trying to rival this. But pigs would probably be the answer on that.
Oh.
I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. So everything on my farm lives symbiotically. And short of, I guess, if I planted truffles, maybe. I've heard that pigs can sniff out truffles like nobody's business. But other than that, they just pretty much tear your ground up and they're just nasty. And I don't see any reason to have them around.
They're destructive. It has no connection with the many religions abhorrence of pigs.
What's that?
It has nothing to do with how many religions have an abhorrence for pigs.
I honestly believe pig meat is horribly parasitic. There is more bacteria and parasites. You notice that there's no such thing as anybody eating raw pig.
True.
They'll eat raw anything else. Pig will actually make you sick.
So it's not that the parasites in pigs can more easily infect us because we have similar biology. It's that, or not biology, but I forget the right word, but it's that they actually have more parasites.
Oh, they are just filthy loaded. Just loaded, horrible, nasty things. And I don't see any reason to have them on my farm.
Well, it's funny. I started not eating pork recently, and I don't even know why, but I just keep hearing shit like this where I'm like, I don't want to eat pigs anymore.
Right.
Did you see the thing where they dumped Coca-Cola on a raw piece of pig meat and it just started writhing because of all the shit that lives in it that was reacting to the code?
Oh my God, that is disturbing. No, I did not. I am thankful, but I'm from a farm, so I've seen at the vet they would have sections of pig intestine cut out, and you're like, how did food even make it through that? Ew. I mean, there's so many parasites and just nasty things in the pigs. Disgusting. You bet. So yeah, I see no reason to have those things on there, and I can see why, especially all your ancient texts. The cooking methods were not like they are now, so you can imagine eating a pig was basically killing yourself.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point.
You bet. We kill all them parasites with fire and turn it all crispy.
Yeah. I think if I was going to say what I would never raise, it'd probably be wolves, because I just feel like they shouldn't be caged. And I know people do it. It makes me sad.
Well, a lot of my animals aren't caged.
That's cool. You have free range.
You bet. Even the one that really surprises me is last spring my neighbor brought over, he was running water line and accidentally ran a female turkey off of her nest. And they aren't going to come back after that because it's danger.
Oh.
So he put the eggs in a box and covered them up and ran them up to me, and I threw them in the incubator. And we assumed
I remember your little baby turkeys.
You bet. they have never left. They don't
Wow.
They don't go in any coop or nothing. They sleep probably 50 feet up in the trees.
I've heard that about turkeys.
You bet. They sleep really high up, and they never leave. There's nothing holding them there.
And are they mean as fuck? Because I heard they're very aggressive.
Nope. They're the most super curious birds. They're the most friendly birds on the farm. And actually, I'm waiting to get a video. So if the roosters start having a fight and they'll start doing their chest bump and flapping at each other, one of the turkeys, there's one of them, it'll come over and it gets all down on them and it'll peck them apart until they quit fighting. It's hilarious.
It's like the ringmaster. It's like, no,
yes,
it's not time.
No fighting.
Cute. How cool.
You bet.
That's awesome. And are any of your other animals free range?
Oh yeah, almost. My goats, they're in a fence, but the fence is for the other things to not come get them.
Yeah.
Because my one female goat, she just jumps from pen to pen. She's got a boyfriend in one pen, but her mom lives clear across in this other pen. And then she jumps in this other one just to check things out every now and then. And the other goat doesn't do as much pen jumping because she's fat.
She's happy.
Yeah. She's like, I don't need to go nowhere. And the alpacas are free range. All of our ducks, only thing I ever do is lock them up at night. Anything.
Yeah, to protect them, basically.
Right, because
you've got cougars and wolves and coyotes.
Yep, you bet. Coyotes, regular. Mountain lions, too often, but not near as regular. But one time with mountain lions will clear your shorts real quick.
Seriously.
You bet.
So that's like the ideal farm, I feel like, to me, is when most of your animals know that they could go if they wanted to, but they choose not to because you have a symbiotic relationship with them.
You bet. It's really got people remark all the time when they come up to my farm, it just has an entirely different feel, and all the animals come up and you can tell that they're friends and they aren't in the least bit intimidated. And so
what a good energy to have, because it's not just you guys creating that there, it's them too, and it's like all adding together. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've got 5 pit bulls and those don't fight.
That's amazing.
Our dogs don't fight. None of our animals really fight. The roosters do a little bit.
Well, and your dogs don't kill your chickens or anything? Like we used to have our dogs would kill our chickens regularly no matter what we did.
Nope. They don't kill any of them.
That's pretty awesome.
You bet. Yeah. Everybody's just kind of weirded out about that. But yeah, we've got creatures
probably
running
how it
everywhere.
Should
be. Exactly.
Well, at the Eyes Open meetup at your farm coming up here in March and April, it'll be pretty awesome to experience that.
Absolutely. We are so stoked. It's like normally I'm very unaware of time.
Yeah.
I'm aware of seasons, but not time. But that's just kind of, like this, like a little kid at Christmas, wow, forever away. But there's a million things to get ready. And yeah,
it's awesome. We planned it so long ago, and it's now finally closer, and it feels cool. And I feel like we planned it maybe too early, but I'm glad that it's happening. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, with some people coming from Australia and things like that.
Yeah.
We probably did put it out far enough so that way other people can plan that and whatnot.
I know someone I was talking to was like, deal. It is. Someone I was talking to was like, so you guys are doing a conference or something? I'm like, no, we're just hanging out. That's the best part about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. Although if anyone wants to come speak, then they're welcome to.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure that I will be doing demonstrations and whatnot and some speaking myself. I'm sure that will happen.
I'm sure we'll take some treks to some magical places nearby.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Some ceremony in there.
And it'll be excellent practice because I've got to go to festivals and whatnot, and I've got to speak. So I've got to be a speaker now. So this will give me some practice on doing that.
Sweet. And we'll get more into which festivals you're doing, if you remember which ones and when, and also some of the other projects you've got going later on.
Absolutely.
But let's go back in time first, because we want to know how baby wizard Ben grew up.
Very nice. Well, I'm originally from a farm or from a farm area, and just that's how I've always grown up. We grew up really, really poor, horribly poor. I understand that a lot of people talk about poor, but we ate government commodities, and I remember there was years we stripped the lath off the lath and plaster to burn in the heater because that's all we could have for heat in our house.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense and insane,
It
and that
is.
was in South Dakota.
That's cold as fuck.
You bet. You bet. So I grew up hard. And I'm real thankful for that now, to be honest, because so many of the things that other people value, I have no use for. And so many of the observations and things that I've made throughout my life are because you take 100 years ago when we didn't have TV and the phones and all these things to entertain us, people still had time.
Yeah.
Well, they still had thoughts. It's not like they turned their brain off all day. They went around and observed the world around them. That's what they had. Like you saw where I posted a picture. We're just sitting there watching the animals. We got chairs sitting around the fence line where we just sit and watch the animals and
Better
what they
than
do.
TV.
You bet. You bet. So
you're actually like engaged in the moment with it, and like, yeah, that act of observing.
Yep, I was actually living with the world, and I never had that comfort, nice little comfort controlled box where it's the right temperature all year round, and I am entertained and everything's brought to me. That just never happened.
But I'm with you with like, one, that a lot of people will say they grew up poor, and then when you get into it, they're like, well, you lived in a 5-bedroom house with 2 cars and and I'm like, that's not really poor. But I'm in our society, maybe it seems poor to people,
right.
But like what you're talking about, where you're like, we don't have enough, and sometimes we're worried that we won't have enough and that we won't make it, and like it's scary, and you have to work for it, and it does teach you the value of things, and it teaches you the value of time. It teaches you the value of knowing how to think and engage with the world yourself, because like you're saying, it's not all just piped into you, brought to you, and you're not always comfortable, but that promotes growth and critical thought, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And I've, in my middle age, have come to appreciate all those things that there were certainly times in my life I despised that. All the other kids at school, they all had all these fancy nice things and went and did all this, went on all these paid adventures and went to Disneyland and things like that, and I went out in the backyard and meandered around and played with animals, and certainly I was. You bet. You bet.
Yeah, it's a different life. So that's part of, that in itself is part of what kind of opened you up probably to just seeing the world because you're engaged with it. But what other types of things happened early on that gave you like a different way of looking at things?
In 1986, a real big thing happened, and this didn't really settle in so much, but the effects were huge after the fact, even if I wasn't so consciously aware of it. But I was out in Minot, North Dakota, and I was walking on the Missouri River, and when the river freezes hard enough, eventually the ice expands enough, it breaks and snaps up like this and creates a weak spot. Well, that had happened, and I was standing over where the weak spot was, and so I dropped through the ice in the Missouri River.
Yikes.
And yeah, you bet. And the last conscious memory that I have of the event, I was hanging on by my fingertips from what was left of the hole, because the current had been sucking me under because I'd been trying to crawl out. And I was laying there.
Freezing, sub-freezing, probably like cold temperatures, and you're being like ripped away.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like 11.
Wow.
So I'm a tiny guy, and I'm wearing all winter stuff, so that added just that much more weight. And I blacked out. Right before I blacked out, I was like, that's it.
Goodbye.
Yep. And I blacked out, and then when I woke up, I was on top of the ice, and this had just happened in just a second, and my brother was running to me, and he's like, how did you get up here? And I'm like, I don't know. Didn't you pull me out? And so that it didn't immediately settle in. I was a little kid, so all the consequences of that didn't really settle, but it immediately made me understand the world just doesn't quite work the way I thought it worked.
Yeah.
And
it's not just like direct action, direct results or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And I already was at that time, if we backtrack a little bit. So when I was in second grade, this was in 82. I was in second grade. They pulled me out of school, and because I already knew everything they were talking about, and they put me in all these. They ran me through a whole battery of all these tests for a couple weeks, and ended up finding out that I already had a freshman in college reading comprehension.
Damn.
Right, and most of the other things that they were teaching, I already understood, and there was just no
pointless.
point to it.
Yeah.
Right. So then, but part of the rest of the test was also social capabilities, because it's not just the understanding the information.
Right.
I was small for my age, and then while I was extraordinarily advanced on that end, on the social end, I was behind.
You're like, what are these human things? What
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And how do you interact with them? I don't get it. And so they had originally opted to put me in like 4th or 6th grade, and then decided that I was probably going to get tormented.
Yeah.
So they just basically gave me access to whatever books I wanted, and I got put in a little room, and that was most of my elementary school was weird like that,
where I was spent
a lot of time.
Social,
no, it did not help me progress socially at all. but I also didn't. I got to read whatever I wanted,
which is cool. So,
right.
Yeah.
And they just basically bring me in and make sure my math was on par and my reading was on par, and it was. I could pass the yearly placement test with 99th percentile all the way down. So they just let me be.
Cool.
So I was already a bit out of that realm. And then in 1987, these Time Life books came out that included like psychic things and all these other different esoteric things. And at the time, this was like back in the BMG music days and whatnot, where you could like order things.
I forgot about those. Yeah.
Right. And you could order it under your parents' name in the mail, and then your parents get a bill.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get in deep trouble. Like, we were poor as hell, and I didn't do the BMG, but Time Life worked basically the same way. And I was like, oh yeah, I want these books. I took a hell of a beating for those books, you bet. But
you got them.
You bet. And I read them and tried some of the things. And it's ever since. So I don't know if I was ever really growing up and learning. I ever really was on the same path as everybody else. I'm aware of what they learned, but I also learned 4 and 5 other different views of it. Like I understand the classic version of physics.
Yeah.
I also understand quantum physics. I also understand the electric universe model.
Yeah.
I also understand the ether universe model. I also, I'm aware of numerous versions of it and the pros and cons, in my opinion, in each one.
Right.
So just because I didn't buy your version that they taught you, that doesn't mean I'm not aware of it.
Right. Which is a classic misunderstanding of people whenever you're promoting sort of an alternative view. They're like, well, let me educate you about the science of it. And you're like, just because I didn't come to the same conclusion as you doesn't mean that I didn't learn the shit you're talking about. In fact, I did. And then I decided I found it wanting.
Exactly. And you just got it shoved down your throat. You probably don't really have even a base understanding. And that's another thing as a child.
Right.
I'm the kid that took everything apart.
Yeah.
I went to 2 different mechanic schools. I have an electrician. I went to the electrician school. I've done plumbing. I need to understand how things work.
Yeah.
And it's not that I need to be better. If I don't understand something, it bothers me.
Right.
And I needed to understand the base of how it works. I need to get down to that root and see what's happening.
The core.
Yes. And so that's what I've done my whole life with things. And if you just get your opinion from somebody else, and I don't care what school you went to,
right?
If you don't actually get in there and look at things and do them yourself, you're just taking what somebody else told you.
Right. I don't even care if you came to the same conclusion as me. If you did it because you just accepted it from somebody who wrote without fucking investigating it, then that's not cool.
Right. all you've done is regurgitated information.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really help you learn anything.
That must be pretty awesome, though, that you have all of these different fields that you've looked so deeply into, because it's not just the knowledge that you get from that. It's all of the interconnections that you're going to start to see in all of these different areas, right?
Exactly. Everything ends up becoming a web. I mean, I live off grid and self-sufficiently, along with having the animals. We produce our own power, and I had to learn how to put all that together in the water. And every little thing that is like when I'm out in the field, the things start pertaining to each other. And this works over here. So I can also kind of use that theory to make this work better. And the wider you cast your net, the better everything just becomes. Things look chaotic until you back up and you see the whole picture, and you realize that it was only that you were looking at the tree instead of the forest. The whole forest is a beautiful symphony. Yeah. And you were just listening to one instrument and going, that doesn't sound that good. So the wider your net, the better the symphony. Everything just starts playing together beautifully.
I love that. It's like, it makes me think of fractals too. You can like zoom in and you can get so much out of this section. You can zoom back out and you can see like so much more, but it's all really like the same network.
Exactly.
I love it. So, how long did that continue? Like, did you go through all of school being kind of separate?
In high school, they basically limited me back down. You've got to check the boxes. Yeah. In high school, you have to
jump through the hoops. Even if you're way beyond them.
Exactly. And you didn't take that prerequisite. Like I cared about English literature 1. I've read all those books back when I was 5.
You've read better books than those.
Right. Yeah. So. But they still make you check the box, and so I didn't actually complete high school.
This is I think 3rd interview in a row that I've had with people who did not complete high school, which I love because I'm a high school teacher and I find it to be worthless for everyone. I'm glad you went and got a better education than you could have. Honestly, you probably should have spent less time there. We all should have.
Exactly. And had it been legal, and people don't realize that when they first brought this forced indoctrination to us, courtesy of the Prussian army, which had the best soldiers.
Hail Prussia.
You bet. So when they brought that forced indoctrination here, the people actually fought against it. And they tried pretending like we didn't know how to read.
Educated people and uneducated people fought against it because they saw that it was bullshit to force your fucking kids to do anything but the state.
Well, and especially when the philanthropists in the ordeal were always these big businesses, giant, like the Rockefellers and whatnot. And everything that they're teaching is to their benefit.
Yes.
But they were philanthropists.
They're trying to help.
Exactly. Like where I'm from, all the hospitals in Denny Sanford opens up hospitals in all these little towns that anybody can afford it. And all these people that weren't getting medical care because they would have to drive too far are now going to these small towns. So there's a much greater pool. Well, I'm okay with that. Yeah. What I'm not okay with is that Denny Stanford, he's such a philanthropist, blah, blah, blah. No, he put a new business in a small town, and he's now getting paid millions of dollars.
All that money.
And philanthropy does not include more wealth after the fact. That's called business.
True, yeah. True philanthropy is actually just giving.
Right. You don't receive benefit from this. Mm-hmm. And when the money that you put into something gives you a return, a substantial return that you absolutely expect, it was never philanthropy. And that's the same situation we have with education. These businesses wanted the population to function in a certain way that was productive for them. And so they did what they could to make it so we were productive people, in their opinion.
And even people who question, what we're doing with schools exactly, still land on this piece where they're like, well, we need people to be educated. I don't want to live in a country full of uneducated people. And I'm like, well, what does education even have to do with it? Like, I want to live in a country full of thinking people.
Exactly.
And that is not what we're creating. We're creating just mindless drones. It's rare if you can get through the educational system with your actual critical thinking skills still intact, because you start out with them,
Exactly.
like you're saying, like when you were a kid. I mean, I think yours is a special case, but I think children are naturally curious. They naturally question everything. They naturally want to know why is it happening. I get that it's happening, but why is it happening?
And they naturally believe their own observations.
Yeah.
You can't go up to them and say, you know, something that's clearly not what they observed and make them buy it.
Like, this is metal. They're
Right.
like, no, it's not. I can see through that shit.
Exactly. You know, you're going to have to do better than this. Like, and it seems like the scientific community, especially right now, they can say anything and people are like, it's science. How is that any different than the Christians? It was Christ, blah, blah, blah. Like, how is this any different? People don't go out and actually figure anything out themselves anymore. It's like they're taking everything off of somebody else's word and they all just sit in their little box and don't do anything.
Yeah. And if you were at like if you loved science and you wanted to promote science, then you would promote every question that anyone ever had to ask, no matter
at what level. That is what true science is.
Yeah.
Is like questioning. Can I prove it? Can I replicate it? Can you replicate what I said? Yep. Not only do I need to do it, I need to be able to make it so you can do it and get the same results.
And if not, then why? Like, then you keep investigating, right? Like,
exactly
that process. That's why when like the flat Earth stuff came up, I was like, I don't even care if the Earth is flat around, whatever. I don't even care. Right. It's so fascinating though to look into and to ask those questions that people are asking. Some of them are really good questions, and really thoughtful people still haven't answered a lot of them, so which is cool.
Exactly.
But like, and then all these scientists are like, oh, I'm so disgusted that our education is so low that people would even think this and blah. And it's like, if you're a true scientist, you should be so glad that people are engaging in any level of inquiry about where their surroundings are, what their shape is, or whatever. Because
you obviously have a curious mind. Let me explain.
Let me tell you what you should think, and you should stop thinking after that.
Exactly. No, a true scientist, like you said, would enjoy. They would be enlightened. They would be happy about a curious, enlightened mind. Like, here, let me tell you and tell me what you think. Instead
of getting angry, because why would you get angry at it unless it's that you have your own doubts or you don't have answers to the questions?
Nikola Tesla, when people questioned him, he said, "Come to my lab. You feel free to come to my lab. I will show you how this works. I will let you do it, and you will understand." Like, none of our scientists do that anymore. Everything's done on a computer model, and according to the models, this works. What's that got to do with the real world? Yeah.
Well, and also like that idea that, oh, what we're doing is so advanced you couldn't possibly understand. And it's like, who is it? Is it Richard Feynman that said, he's awesome. He said, if you can't explain it to a child, then you don't understand it well enough.
Then you don't understand it yourself. Exactly. You're just full of crap.
Right.
It's 100% true.
And if it is so advanced and so whatever that people can't access it, like, what good would it be anyway? Right?
Exactly. It affects your life. That's from my position, because I try and live very simply. And I'm an alchemist. And one of the things in alchemy that you're doing is separating the wheat from the chaff. You're getting things down to their basic core essence, because that's what you want, is the pure good things. Yes. And if things are in your life that are not that, they don't particularly serve you in your life, then it's pointless anyways. Get it out of here.
Burn it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't fear the fire.
Yep. Put it on fire. That's what it needs. You know.
So as you're like then progressing through your younger life, past high school and stuff, what are some of the biggest kind of disappointments you had, or like disillusionments about the world or society?
One of the biggest disillusionments, and this is one that you see in academic fields at the higher levels. One of the easy ones to pick out is like the new theories about the Great Pyramid with Graham Hancock and them, where absolutely you can see the Sphinx has water erosion on it, and that in a desert, that's a fairly odd thing.
Yeah.
So we need to go back to what we thought, because obviously water erosion has not happened in the time frame that we thought that's been sitting there, and readjust. And instead, we have a serious fight in the field, because these people have to admit that they were wrong.
Right.
and be okay with that. And they've made their stake on that. Well, the same thing happened growing up. All these things I would notice that were not quite right. And I at first, when I was younger, I'd get excited and like, wow.
Yeah.
And then
I figured something out.
right.
Yeah.
And then you find out, no, you need to shut the fuck up. That's some weird shit you're saying. And that's highly disappointing when the adults nobody really wants to listen to anything you have to say. And the things that they're saying so many times are stupid.
Yeah.
And that made life really tough. And I grew up really isolated because of it. I didn't not have friends, and I was athletically capable. I wrestled and when I was in high school and played other sports. I was good at baseball. So I did not have friends, but I didn't really have friends either. I was a loner most of my life because of it. And part of that is because when I talk about when I'm standing in a group and I'm like the turd in a punch bowl.
Yeah.
That's the way I grew up. And
they're like,
and
hey, what shoes should we buy next? And you're like, did you guys realize the Sphinx has water erosion? And they're like, shut
right.
the fuck up.
Exactly. Yeah,
Totally.
you're not cool. And so, and like I said, then you assume that adults would do this, and then you come to find out, no, adults are just as bad as kids. If a kid says something that threatens their intelligence, they're just ready to shit all over that kid. And all that was very disheartening. And then knowing things were not right in the school. There was things that I had openly been researching that did not match at all what I was being told.
Right. Yeah, it's really sad. That dynamic is so silencing. And like you were saying, you felt really like distanced and alone. And it's like, what hope do you have in the world if you're just coming up into it and you don't see anywhere where you fit?
Exactly. And I know a lot of kids, and this is one advantage for me, and I think partially because I grew up so hard. We're not very depressive people where I'm from. We're kind of hardcore. We aren't going to go hurt ourselves. We're going to probably get angry and go hurt somebody else if anything. So while I didn't like internalize that and say, oh, I'm some worthless. I'm like, you guys are assholes. And I just pretty much just isolated myself down as much as possible.
Yeah.
And honestly, the most miserable time in my life and disappointment for myself was there was obviously a time period where I did try to fit in and tried to become like the other people in the world. And I did quite well at that. I dropped out of high school and I had joined the Army when I was 17. And I owned a house by the time I was 21 in the suburbs, and had a couple mechanics degrees. So I was a mechanic. I worked at Interstate Detroit Diesel. So that was a pretty excellent job.
So you, by all outward means, you were successful. You had done it.
Yes. Yes. And anybody that looks at any pictures of me that actually personally knows me and sees those pictures, like you can see my entire soul was gone. I was so miserable. Yeah. Just the most miserable. Ask Christy sometime, have her show you the pictures sometime. You can just, it's palpable, the misery that's emanating off me trying to actually fit in with other people.
And I think that's something too, that's like not everyone's going to have the same level of that, that you're talking about because of your specific path. But like, I feel like most people get to that point where they like are supposedly have made it, like, oh, I did it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, so this is it? Like, this is what we're alive for?
And then you're trapped into that. You're like, well, you feel obligated to, because this is what I've been working for and I have it. Now I'm like obligated to it and I've got to keep working to maintain it. And I hate it. And that's why you see so many middle-aged people that are, suicide rate is just skyrocketing because they're getting there and realizing this is not the cat's ass.
And it seems to them by all outward appearances that there is nothing else.
Right. Exactly. And now they realize they've spent their whole life working for crap and they're powerless.
Yeah.
They've never learned anything. They've not experienced things. They've spent their entire life moving from one box to another that was temperature controlled and pushing buttons and not living any type of a life.
And just guzzling the shit they've been fed and just like treating it like that's it. That's all there is.
whether it's else to make it for them and spice it for them and get it ready. And all they got to do is stick it in a little box and push a couple buttons. Got to get that button pushing in there.
Yeah.
Push a couple buttons and then pull it out and stick it right in the gullet. And no idea what the hell happened in between that can and your, whenever that was supposedly food to begin with, and what happened before you put it in your mouth. They say anybody that's ever ate at a meat packing plant, at any of these Campbell's food place, anything, they never eat that product again.
Oh,
like you never hear anybody that worked in those places like, yeah, I love this stuff.
It's great.
I never will eat it. Right.
Oh.
Like, these conditions are horrifying. You would never eat that food.
Seriously.
Like, and people just gave that away, and they don't want to know, because knowing would also include having to go do something with it, having to learn how to do organic planting to keep all those chemicals away and provide yourself with fresh food that what happened to it. You have to actually be proactive and go out and do that. And the beautiful thing is, when you start doing that, you empower yourself.
Yes.
And you realize, I don't need to put up with their shit. Why do I need to put up with it? I've got my own garden. I can take care of myself. You were relying on other people to take care of you. And when you did, they started doing a bad job.
Yep. Well, I love that. I mean, that is a major disillusionment too, that people realize, if they're in this line that we're in, this path, is that it's not that other people don't see the truths that you're pointing towards. It's that they don't want to, for exactly the reason you're talking about. It's not comfortable, and it's not easy to accept that things are wrong, because it then dictates that you have a certain level of responsibility, at least for yourself. If not to other people.
People have this weird, like, you see couples. This is the weirdest thing. Like, I don't want to waste 15 years of my life I didn't want to break up. If you're that unhappy with being with somebody, it's not a waste. You're unhappy at this point. Just stop.
Yeah.
The time from here on out where you continued to suffer with the same thing, even though you understood it wasn't what you wanted, now you're wasting time.
Yeah, that's
right.
So sad.
And it's
people are terrified of that change. Like, well, what does it mean and what'll happen? It's like, well, whatever happens, you're gonna fucking live.
Life is gonna happen.
Die. Yeah,
exactly.
Life is gonna happen. And life is awesome when you go find it. It's beautiful.
Exactly. The most amazing things happen when you just stick your neck out there. And that's literally, get out of your little box. Go stick your neck out. The most things that you would swear couldn't even happen every day right in front of your face.
Yes, literally shit that doesn't even make sense. You're just like,
exactly.
That's the universe we live in. It's insane. You have to be open to it though, and you have to go purposely looking for it, I think. And it comes back to the same thing where people may even understand that that's true and possible, but it's terrifying.
Exactly.
They don't want
to. And then also to notice that it's a self-observation. And this is where I believe, and you're going to ask me this question in a second coming up, so I think we'll just grab it right here, is I think the root of what's wrong is they don't trust themselves and have this self-power and self-observation. They wait for the TV to tell them how to feel about it.
Right.
And depending on what the producer of that program wants, they will input you with that. Take even something so simple as a seal and a bear. They can either show the bear and this poor starving bear with its two little cubs that are going to die. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't go get this seal and bring home food, they're going to suffer and miserably. Or they can shoot it from the seal's angle, like, oh, the bear is eating me. You can have empathy with any side, and they push that on you. You don't even get to go out and just observe it and say, how do I feel about this? And what happened here, and what kind of interplay with the world, and understand that I can feel bad for the seal and the bear. I understand that bear's got to eat, and that bear's a carnivore, and I feel bad for the seal. Sorry, it had to be you.
Yeah.
But this is nature, and it's the way it happens. So really, I don't need to have that much of feeling in it at all, and I can be Buddhist and not attached to it.
True.
And just observe it.
I love that.
The televisions tells you how to feel. It doesn't leave you any of those options.
Right. Well, I was thinking about this the other day too, of I feel like at some point, not too long ago, the news became our emotional outlet, sort of, We have
Right.
this very, very comfortable lives, and everything's brought to us. And maybe we're like, maybe it's like we need some emotion in our lives, some passion or whatever. And so they're like, okay, well, just pipe it into you through like the news and these little fucking pointless sitcoms. And like, you can get
Right.
emotional about that. And then the rest of your shit, you'll just be like asleep.
Because at some point, we're designed to crave these feelings and
Yeah.
have these things. And when you just sit in this box, you will literally atrophy. People don't realize that everything in your body and in your person works the same. And if you don't exercise it, whether it's your brain, I quit exercising my brain, I will start becoming less intelligent. It will literally atrophy.
It
You
happened
don't
to me.
yeah, you don't use math for 20 years and suddenly you're like, oh, a six.
Yeah.
How does that formula go?
Mhm.
Everything in your system will atrophy.
Mhm.
And so when you quit having these experiences, which are vital to you as a person, to how you interact in the world, when you quit getting those things, when the only interactions are just this thing right here, they need to duplicate that or else you're going to search for it.
Right.
You're going to understand that there's a void in you and you need to fill that void somehow. So they're now filling the void.
Well, that whole process you're describing of like thinking for yourself and engaging with the world for yourself and being responsible for yourself is like, you know, you're describing it as sort of this, like, that is life, like that is the path and the journey, and like that's what we're supposed to do. And we talked about you know, all of our modern comforts sort of like putting us to sleep, and it's also comfortable, and we don't have to engage with anything or think with anything. And you and I have talked before about how like sort of the ultimate final card in that whole game is basically AI, right?
Exactly.
Like then what will be the point of being alive as a human if like literally everything we could ever need to worry about is just taken care of us by this like massive super intelligence that runs everything for us, and we let it, you know, we're gonna put the neural
why
shit
not?
in our
Because we
brain.
hate this world. And why
Yeah,
not? Because we hate this world. It's such a horrible place.
we do.
We
We
all
talk
want to
about
get,
leaving it all the
yeah,
time. Like,
we
let's
all
go
want
find
to
another
get
planet.
somewhere better. This
Why?
place is the bad, right? So they've taught you to hate this and taken away your power and going to give you something else. Why is all that?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It is
You
very
know,
interesting to me. Like, I don't actually see the point. And people talk about it. Like, even the other day, one of my friends posted something, and I was like, why would you want to give away your entire like life to this like VR simulation implant in your brain? And they're like, well, it's inevitable. Why fight it? I'm like, why does everyone think it's inevitable?
right?
There's
You
nothing
don't
inevitable.
you don't need it at all.
No.
It's something that I don't have cable. I don't have satellite. I
You just
barely
blew
get
like
internet.
50% of people's minds. He doesn't have cable.
Right. I don't even have internet. I have a little bit of signal I can send messages in and out on.
Sometimes.
Like, sometimes.
If
I
we're
have
lucky.
to, like right now I'm at Christy's shop to come in to do these things, and to
Yeah.
when I go to shoot any kind of a show or anything, I have to come in just to get signal. You can live without these things.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, entertainment is a luxury, and people want to they're either at work earning money to be entertained or being entertained.
Well, and
This
people, I don't even know if people think about like, what would you do if you had no TV and no internet? Well, you'd probably fucking
right.
read and make some shit, and like you might go plant a garden. I mean,
If you quit staring obsessively at a screen, you might notice some shit that happens outside of that screen. We have literally put blinders on ourselves. This is how people see, and they wonder why there's no observation of the world around them, and they don't understand how things fit, because you're looking like this all the time, and not even like that, like this.
Yeah.
You just want to see that little screen.
And even that screen has just got like the smallest, tiniest slice of what actually exists. And I'm not like a saint. Like, I have Netflix and I have internet and I have video games and stuff. But the more I go down this sort of journey, like I have found that, and I want to say it's been like 3 months since I've played a video game, and I'm not trying to not. I just like don't have time because I'm doing shit that I actually enjoy.
And then the funny thing when you go back is you're going to go back, say that 6 months from now, because I know how busy you are.
Yeah.
In 6 months, you're going to go back and you're going to sit down and play a video game. It's going to interest you for like 3 minutes. You're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I got shit to do.
Yeah, this is boring.
Yeah, this is some mindless drivel that I was using in order to occupy myself because I wasn't doing anything better.
Right. Right, right. So I don't think anyone should feel bad about where they're at, but they're all interesting things to think about. Like, how much do you spend time on your screen? I'm also the bad thing about I have like sort of a phone addiction, but it's like 90% of what I do with this show and with the group happens with my phone. So I like
Right.
am constantly on there, but it's not, I try really hard to like, I leave my phone at home sometimes when I go out, and I try to like be aware of how much time I'm spending on it and try to do it the least that I can get away with and still pull off the things I'm trying to do.
You bet. Well, there's an entire
It's a
difference
danger.
between using it, because entertainment in and of itself isn't bad.
No.
But you should not be spending the majority of your time seeking it and just indulging in it.
And it shouldn't be like a mindless thing where you're just like,
Right.
well, now is the time of day where I sit in front of the TV for 4 hours. Like,
and turn my brain off before
Yeah.
I go to sleep for 8 hours, and turn my brain off. And now the only thing that you thought about all day was pushing a button at work.
Yeah.
That's the only activity your brain is supposed to have all day. And you wonder why it atrophied. You wonder why.
Yeah.
You wonder why people tell you what to think, because you don't think.
Yeah. You left the void there and they're going to fill it, right?
Exactly.
Do you remember, did you ever know that childhood sort of like rhyme that goes, hello, my name is Joe. I got a wife, 4 kids, and I work in a button factory?
No.
Oh, I wonder how many people know that, because I look back on it now, like you keep talking about pushing buttons, and I'm like hearing that in my head. I'm like, did we have that rhyme because we were making fun of how pointless adult jobs are, or did we have that rhyme to train us that like this is what life is about? You got your 4 kids and you work in your button factory.
Exactly. You were a good person. You get up from your temperature control box, and even now, the first thing you do when you get up is turn around and hit the button, because something tells you to get up, and you hit the button.
Okay.
So then you walk over to your coffee machine and you hit a button. And then you walk over to your shower and you hit your little thing. And then you might hit a button to turn on your TV or whatever. And then you hit a button to open up the fucking garage door. Seriously, get in your car. Yeah,
hit a button
to start the damn car now. They don't even have keys. You can't even turn your key anymore. It's got to be a button.
Which sucks, actually, because your fucking battery goes out in your little stupid fob thing, and then you can't start your fucking car. You're like, God, can we go back to mechanical shit, please?
Exactly. And it's just, most people get to work, they push in a security code, push a button on a time clock, and then sit down in front of a computer or a machine, a CNC machine, anything, and just start pushing buttons.
It's true.
And at the end of the day, like, you get home, you push buttons on your microwave, push more buttons on your TV. And before you go to sleep, the last thing you do is push a button to make sure that thing gets you back up to push more buttons again.
It's true.
Where was life happening and all that? Literally, the entire day was pushing buttons from a temperature controlled box. It's the Jetsons. Yeah. And there's no life in it whatsoever.
Well, and I don't want to rag on our dear friend, and I won't name him by name, but he talked about how, like, well, maybe if we had AI and all these conveniences, it would leave us more time to have like philosophical pursuits and, pursue art and science and music, because we wouldn't be doing this. But like, look at all of the technological advancement we've had so far. And they've done studies on like how much time the average, let's just say housewife, because at the time it was normally a housewife, had back in like the 50s, and they had way more free time than we have now. So like, what did all our technological advancements get us? And if it hasn't yet, why would it in the future?
Exactly. In fact, we've went back, because what was it in the early 1900s? A 30-hour week was considered full time. And that's what people put in there. Like, with these new advancements, we're not even going to know how people are going to work. They're only going to work like 5 hours a week.
I wish.
Right. And instead, everything went the opposite way. And honestly, for myself, I honestly believe that philosophies went too far.
Yeah.
Philosophy is a thought.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you sit and imagine, and this is what we're living. We're living in a virtual reality where people just want this imaginary world. Yeah. What they haven't done is actually bring that shit back to the real world and weigh it to see if it works. I would also like it if what if dogs never died? That would be great. And then you bring it back to the real world, and that sounds awesome. I can't stand it. My dog died, and I thought I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Worst thing ever. Now, what happens if dogs never die? Now, all of a sudden, we have a whole planet infested with a carnivorous animal that's going to start eating everything eventually as it starves. Like, it
Right.
doesn't work.
Well, and there's something like I mean, we might hate death and we might be scared of it or whatever, but like there's a reason it's a natural part of life. And I
Exactly.
don't want to change that. Like
If dogs never died, everything else would die because the dogs would eat them.
yeah. But also you wouldn't appreciate your dog very much because you're just like, yeah,
Exactly.
whatever, I'll see you my entire life. Big deal.
Exactly.
But you know that time is limited. You're like, I'm gonna love the shit out of you.
Precisely.
I'm gonna go on long walks with you. We're gonna sniff flowers.
All these interesting philosophical thoughts that everybody wants to have, and all this very love and light, it's very philosophical and it's very etheric. But what we aren't doing is actually bringing that back down to this plane. They're all like, well, I want to leave and then it'll be better. That's heaven. That's heaven repackaged.
Yeah.
You're not using that word anymore, but it's the same repackage. When I get to this next place, it's going to be peachy forever. That makes zero sense.
Is that like video game mentality? Or like, I just got to beat this level and then the next level is going to be like maybe harder, but then eventually I'm going to get to the end. It's going to be great.
Right. And there's going to be parties and I'm never going to have to play again and blah, blah.
And you never have to clean your room.
Right. This makes zero sense. And in doing that, all you're doing is basically sitting and daydreaming. And that's what philosophy was. Now, I'm not saying philosophy didn't have its place, because the daydreamer is like the engineer. That's the guy who sat and dreamed up this big, fabulous house.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he has to take that to a contractor who also has to go to a supply man and go, yeah, well, do you really think you should do that in granite? Because that would like take up like 10 quarries worth of granite. It's just not fucking possible, man.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to start bringing it down to the real world. And then even after the supplies, the contractor out in the field might go, that's really cool looking, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah. It's not effective.
Right. So philosophy is that etheric drawing that only means anything is when you bring it down to earth. And we've all decided that we want to live in this virtual reality, imaginary world where we don't actually have to make things work, but we can imagine whatever we want and it's going to be great. And we'll get that sometime in the etheric future or the multi-dimensional. Oh, it happened in some dimension. If you've got to start making up really weird, stupid sounding shit to explain yourself, it's probably bullshit.
Probably.
There is a reality, and you've got to bring things down to that reality for them to mean anything.
Yeah, and I have to think there's like a reason for it too. Like there's a reason you're in a physical reality and a physical body doing these things. There's a reason why you have to like cook your food and have a process to it. And
these same people will tell you how you were an etheric being before, and then you chose to come here. But somehow now they're going to tell you being here is worthless, and your whole point is to getting there.
That's
Why
a really
the
good
fuck
point.
did you come here in the first place?
Well,
like
then
you
there's
just like suffering? Is this self-flagellation, old Catholic style?
Be like, ashamed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Why did you even come here if the whole point of being here was to get there?
So that is the most common thing I come across in like my sort of esoteric studies, is that this is like I don't want to say like a punishment, but it almost seems something like that, right? Like you have something to work through or deal with, or
again, putting the hate on this plane, and that is that's what's taking away all the power from people. You were never supposed to hate this plane. This is the proving ground. Yeah. This is where the shit happens and where you want to be. And they've convinced you to leave the field before you ever played.
So they've got to get something out of it then. Like, what did they get out of making us not feel like attached and engaged in this and want to?
We will never realize our own power. They will always have it. And
our own power on this plane in this moment, like here.
Exactly.
Not like once we've ascended or like whatever.
Right here, right now.
Yeah.
This is where the power is. When you die and become an etheric being, the etheric side of things is basically like the moviegoer. You understand the entire plot line. You saw all the subtext. You saw the things that happened. You have this expanded consciousness about it. But what is your effect as you're sitting there? No, don't go in that room. You know, your effect on the movie is nil. when you're here, you don't understand, and you didn't get to see all that subtext and subplot, but you actually get the chance to affect things, to do things. And so this is the spot that happens. What is the point to that guy even watching the movie if you don't want certain things to happen with it?
Right.
What's the point to that knowledge if you can't use it?
I love it.
Oh, that's great that you know that. What good's that doing anybody?
Yeah. What are you doing with it? Exactly.
So and these etheric beings, I don't know why they put this heaven thought. These things, they're just vibrating faster than us. They're still on the same plane.
Yeah.
There isn't a heaven. They aren't in some other weird place that we go to. They're here.
Which is why you can interact with them and have effects with that. Yeah.
Because they're here and they're just vibrating on them so fast that we can't see them, which isn't an odd concept. You can duplicate that with something spinning. And eventually, as it spins, it'll turn into a solid object. Again, into a different one from what it started. It'll start making another solid appearance, and then it'll disappear entirely.
Right.
We're just talking about vibrational speeds. They aren't in another place.
And it's not fucking like magic.
Right. This is basic science. The Kabbalion, which I consider the premier book on how energetics work,
changed my life.
Exactly.
Thank you, because you recommended it.
You bet. And that is just the principles of how things work.
Yeah.
You can feel however you want to about it, and you're going to.
Yeah.
You and I could walk the same road, and you're going to experience that entirely different. But you still have to walk that road, and the things still work in a certain way, no matter how you feel about it. So at some point, there's a reality in how things actually function. Yes. And so you've got to take those etheric thoughts and match them into that, or else them etheric thoughts are useless.
Right.
The whole thing with one of the ones that people get stuck on is that all truths are half truths. What you're not doing, the reason it's not all truths are half truths and all lies are half truths. All truths are half truths because a truth, you can feel a certain way about it. It's describing the polarity of that truth. That something can be negative from this view and positive from this view. From over here, I'm looking at it from the right. From over here, I'm looking at it from the left. Both those things are true about that truth. Yeah. It's giving you the polarity and how you stand in position to that and how you feel. What it doesn't do is mean, oh, well, metal is glass.
Yeah.
It doesn't make lies into truth. And people get that very confused because they want to be in this. This is part of why you start hearing when you see things like we're in a false reality and things like that. And, oh, well, look, the laws of physics don't even work. Some dumb motherfucker made those laws up.
Yeah. If they don't work, they're not the laws.
Right. That is obviously not a law. That's some crap somebody made up.
Yes.
Energy moves in certain ways, period. And everything abounds off of that and fractally expands from there.
Puppy dogs.
Hey. Can't be here without her. That's
yes.
For sure.
Maybe she'll come say hi soon.
So yes, she's over checking the door. So if you don't fit what you're talking about into that way that things work, then what you're talking about is some bullshit and you just need to let it go.
Yeah.
Or just sit there and have your little daydream and enjoy your daydream, understanding that doesn't mean anything about this world.
And it's not going to help you progress anywhere or get anything done.
Exactly.
If that's your goal.
Exactly.
So what, like, through all of this, that you have to like travel through and struggle through and figure out, like, what keeps you motivated on that path? Like, what are the good things that you find along the way?
For me, when I was younger, and I have to say now, my the fruits have been becoming very thick, very fast.
They're like massively maturing all of a sudden.
Yes. So for a lot of years, I honestly, it was just I am a force of will.
Yeah.
If you look at I've gotten those energetic readings where they have printouts, and it's even a machine that does it.
Yeah.
And around my will center, there's literally, my will's as wide as my body, and there's a red ring that goes around it. Like, I just don't, I just don't take failing well.
You just don't give a fuck. Like,
right.
I'm going to do this.
Yes, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And some of those things hurt, and some of those things suck, and some of those things fail miserably.
Yeah.
And I just keep going and keep going. And, you know, it was actually, I think, kind of a boon that the world was so horribly against me, because it gave me no fucks. I just had no fucks to give. And I just did what I was going to do.
You're the second person today to say something like that to me. The way the other person described it was like, I have had a series of closed doors as I've gone through my life. But if I didn't have so many closed doors, then I wouldn't have found the one that was open, which was the best one to find.
Yeah.
Right.
That I just started making my own way. And at any given time, it would have been so much easier to just fit right in. I'm intelligent enough. I present myself well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm capable. It would have been so easy to fit right into the flow. And once you start enjoying that, there's no such thing as burning a field you eat out of. If you're enjoying it and benefiting from it, you're going to protect it. And I never ate out of that field. I didn't get the advantages of eating out of it. And now I look, and so already I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that's a crappy field. I don't want to eat out of it now.
Yeah.
You know, it's been poisoned. That stuff's no good.
For sure.
And had I known to miss it, like take Karo syrup. You're given Karo syrup as an infant. It's mixed into your formula.
Yeah.
Even back in the 50s and 60s, doctors used to recommend you put 2 teaspoons of Karo syrup in the baby's bottle. What does a baby need sugar for?
Sugar corn.
Exactly. But now that they've had that flavor, now there's a void when you take it away. And so I never experienced the void of that.
Yeah.
I'm not missing it because I just didn't have it.
That's a beautiful thing. It's kind of like a theme that we're seeing here. Like, not having all the same shit is actually like a benefit in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
So what is it that's your like passion that keeps you kind of stuck on your path, would you say?
Oh, currently my passion is changing the world.
Yeah.
That I can't stand how things have evolved and work. I genuinely enjoy happiness, and just I want to be left alone and have my nice little happy symbiotic farm where everything just has a good time.
Yeah.
And I don't see that happening. I don't see my farm maintaining or this happening for anybody else unless the world changes. And so for a number of years now, that's basically just been my passion, is just trying to actually actively change the world, trying to bring simple things. And I try and a big difference between myself and most of your gurus or your inspirational speakers is I'm not talking about things that are all magical and out here and all mental. It's things that you can do. And I live this life.
Yeah.
I already live it. You can talk. The reason I'm so well rooted in the things that I do and talk about is because I'm already enjoying the fruits of that.
Yeah.
I'm already the example that, yes, it can work. And yes, you can do it. And here, let me show you. It's not some magical thing. It's something right in front of your very eyes. And I try to make it as simple for other people as possible so they can start bringing benefit to themselves also.
And they don't have to take it on faith, like you're saying, like you have proven.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like with part of my gig is teaching alchemy, actual plant alchemy. And I don't tell you what to think. I tell you how to perform the alchemy, and then you need to start doing it yourself until you understand it. But while you're doing it, you're going to feel about it however you want. You're going to experience it. You're going to have your own observations and thoughts. And some of them might be things that I had not thought of. But you still need to actually do the work in order to have an opinion on that, in order to get those understandings. You still had to go live the life and do the work.
Yes.
And that's where I am trying to bring to the world. Everybody else has already put out a lot of the things I talk about are already out there in ancient teachings.
Yeah.
What's been lost is the understanding of it. And the understanding, the wisdom has been lost because the doing has been lost.
Yes.
Everybody just wants it to all be etheric and philosophical.
Yes. Well, that's like the theme of the episode, right? Is like bringing it back to what you're actually like applying it and doing it, or else what was it worth in the first place?
Exactly. Sounds good. Sounds good. You know, but what difference does it make?
And if you're just going to like talk about it and think about it and never do anything, then I mean, that's cool too. I mean, maybe that's part of the process for like each person or whatever, but like really that's where it starts, is when you're actually applying and doing.
Exactly. And to be fully honest, I walk Odin's path, and I believe 100% that when I'm finished with that, I will have the same position as Odin. And that's what I've been here to do the entire time, because this is the testing ground. This is where my etheric mind and my dense mind both exist simultaneously with the ego mixed in of Earth. That somehow is happening at the same damn time.
Yes.
And that's where the stew has to happen, and where you taste it and see whether that stew was good. And that's what we're here for, and I'm here to do that.
Yes. And I like that you say that, because I think some people will hear that and be like, oh, that guy's crazy. He thinks he's going to be Odin. But like, this is the same story we see in every major religion, is that this person who has achieved whatever they've achieved, they never are saying, I'm the only one. They're in fact saying like, come fucking do this shit, guys. Like, this is the way. Follow me. Yeah.
They call it the path for a reason. You have to actually walk that path, do the work, suffer through it. And then you will receive the same benefits. It's like a meme that Christy put out, you know, and somebody was talking about, oh, look at all these horrible things. What do you think's coming next year? And the guy says flowers. And they says, why do you think that? He says, because I planted flowers.
Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. I did the work. I know what's coming because I did that.
Yeah, you make it. I
fully expect to. Exactly.
Or you don't, and someone else does. Which is scary.
Right. And then they're going to make what they want. It's not going to be your perfect idea. It's going to be theirs. And then because you didn't do it, you just need to shut up and live with what they did.
Basically. And a lot of people are like, well, that's, you know, I've heard people who are like kind of starting down the path, and they'll say something to the extent of like, well, I don't want to open that door. Like, I don't want to see what's on the other side. Basically, they're saying they're like almost scared of their own power. And it's like, you don't have to open any doors, and you don't have to go down any paths. But like you're saying, like, if you don't, I mean, that's fine and that's cool. I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to say it's going to be horrible, but like, you're definitely going to then you're going to be pushed through whatever door someone else then chooses you, which if that's what you want, do it. That's going to be its own learning experience, and it's going to hopefully bring its own benefits, but you're choosing that either way, right?
Exactly.
So this path you've had of trying to change the world and walking down that has brought you to some pretty exciting new things that you're getting into. Do you want to tell us about those things?
Yes. So interesting enough, my public debut was also with Lindsay.
Yay!
And at the time, didn't really think anything. You know, we were just we all just thought we were screwballs.
We're just having fun.
Having some fun, and actually all enjoying a conspiracy show and just wanting to chat about it.
Yeah.
And I had my own, and I had not really aired out my public opinions that much on a lot of these things.
Well, and you were still processing some pretty major.
Absolutely. Well, I was processing what Odin had gifted me, because throughout my entire life, and here's another thing that's good to just talk about. Throughout my entire life, I've been left-hand path, because again, with the way we've been speaking, I'm not a you tell me. I go do it, and okay, well, yeah, I see it works that way.
Yeah.
And that's left-hand path in my definition and opinion. Is that I'm making up my own rules based off of what I have observed. Right. In the universe and how that works out the best. And in doing that, I've studied just about every theology, religions, mythologies, and I've tried on just about every hat. And it wasn't until Odinism, and I started really delving into Odinism in the runes, that all of a sudden I found a hat that was like a hat that it seemed like I've been wearing it the whole time. Like, wow, this one just fits perfect. It's an old friend. And
Isn't that funny? Like I try to describe that to people. I'm like, it's like when you come to a certain knowing, it's like you always knew, you just remembered.
exactly, like this is home.
Like, hi,
And
yeah.
exactly. And uh, so I got to try on all those things. Just like if I told you chocolate pudding was the best, you would expect me to make comparisons to all the other different puddings. Why do you like it better than tapioca? Why do you like it better than vanilla? You
Right.
mean it's better than pistachio pudding? What, are
That
you
can't
kidding
be.
me? Right. Like if, oh, well, I've only ever eaten chocolate. I can't really, I have no root, no base. I don't even know why I think it's the best.
Yeah. Someone
So
told
I
me it
got,
was, so.
yeah, and I tried it and I think so.
Mhm.
Well, why do you think that? I don't know. Because well, as I was progressing through all those things and I was just experimenting and viewing the world and trying out different things, I got to realize all those things. So when I came to Odinism and just straight Odin's path, all those things made sense to me, and I was aligning myself to something that was already inside me, that
Yes.
I felt right. I'm not, and this is a difference between myself and a lot of other people that talk about these things. I happen to be on the same path as Odin. We are in the same cause, allies. I'm not serving him. What I do serves me.
Yeah.
It also will work toward his benefit and be good for him,
And
but
everyone.
that's, and everyone else.
Yeah.
But I'm choosing it because of me.
Hmm.
And I walk this path because of me. And this is, I get to get the benefits and the consequences of it. And this is something that society's trying to give up. They don't want the consequences. So they'll take whatever shitty benefits these people are willing to hand them in order to have a prescribed bill.
Right.
They aren't willing to just put their damn neck out there, and maybe you get the best, maybe you don't. But Wayne Gretzky used to say, you miss every single goal you don't shoot.
Yes.
If you don't take the shot, you definitely are not going to make the goal. And Wayne Gretzky ended up making more goals than anybody in history because he took that shot every time he had. He didn't sit there and go, oh, but if I miss, the fans are going to be angry. I might lose my job. It'll bring my shooting percentage down. Everybody's going to laugh because it was a bet. No, he's like, damn, bam.
Yeah.
Didn't care. Didn't care about failing. Didn't care about what other people thought. Nothing. He just did it.
Oh no, I think we lost your video. Oh, you're
Yeah,
still there.
it
You
tried
came
to
back.
reset my carrier settings.
Okay, we're here.
Yes. And
So yeah.
that just pulling the trigger and doing it is just in every way missing from society, and it's everything I am about.
Right. So you just started. So we did our podcast together, which was back on Chat and Higher Side when we were talking about THC, and then we kind of started getting more involved in making like a community of thinking people.
You bet.
And
And
then
this was just amazing because I went from an entire growing up, my experience before I isolated myself, my experience was not good with people.
yeah,
And then this group opens up, and all these very open-minded and intelligent people who, even if you didn't agree with, would listen to what you were saying and then possibly give you feedback that might even change your opinion on what you thought.
which is key. That's the key to this group's
Exactly.
beauty, is that no one really cares if we disagree or not. We can have different thoughts and still be friends and still help each other learn and grow.
And it's beautiful. So this ended up spinning off into, unfortunately, the show that this originally started revolving around. There was some personal disagreements, not in there and whatnot, and we ended up shutting all that down. But it evolved into our group had bonded enough to where we stayed together, and some little spin-off shows started happening. And Lindsay is obviously, the beautiful Lindsay is a wonderful interviewer and works with people well and is wonderful to talk to.
Thank you.
And we had Steve Poikinen and Sarah Hall, who are more interested on the political end of conspiracy and whatnot.
Right.
And then myself and my good
their show called Slow News Day, if anybody wants to check it out.
Slow News Day, you betcha. And I have also been on that. Awesome people, and it's again, which matches our group. These are very intelligent thinking people. So
Right.
you're not going to get right left paradigm BS. These are people that are thinking.
Mhm.
And then you switch over to Lindsay. She's the interviewing. And then Claude and I had more of a teaching and magical. I did a show with my good friend Claude for about 10 weeks. And we did a more magical, esoteric, Gnostic show.
And that's called
And
Breaking Basic. If anybody wants to go find that on YouTube, it's totally worth your time.
you bet. And I honestly thought that that was going to be about a dozen people and my mom, give or take. You know,
Right.
mostly the eyes open group that was just supporting me, but you know, we didn't want to listen to it. And it just took off like mad.
Yeah. People love it.
And
People are thirsty for it.
absolutely. And we did things like just performing simple plant alchemy, which has almost completely been lost. And
Right.
something that plant healers and everybody used to use. That's where the efficacy and the potency came from.
Yeah.
Because you were doing this purification process and making it into medicine. And this is why Rick Simpson oil cures cancer, but just eating some marijuana does not.
Right.
There's a process to this, and people gave that up and forgot about it. And we brought it back and was handing it to the people in a simplified way that they could do at home. And this just caught fire. And then along with my following Odin gifted me with a different understanding of the way the tree of life works and the way that energetically fits in with us.
Yes.
And I was able to share that and the way my understanding of the way the different minds work and the way we do live on this planet.
Yeah.
Because we do have that etheric high mind. That already exists, people. You don't need to reach for it.
Yeah.
It's there.
You have it.
We also have our dense material mind, which we need to quit shitting on. That is where the supplies come from. If you were going to build a house, you wouldn't be, oh, mighty engineer, fuck the supply house. Well, then you're going to live under a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like, this does not work. And then this almighty dreaded ego, which is the thing that's decides and trying to put the whole situation together. And this all happens inside you, and it's a beautiful symphony, and you're here to make it perfect, to make it sound beautiful and be pure. And we gave that up. And we're not even trying to do that now.
Well, and it's just with our consciousness and our like lack of awareness that it exists, that it's not accessible to us. Like, it's still there.
Right.
It's not hard to
Exactly.
find. Yeah.
Exactly. You're the dummy who shows up, and you're in the promised field, and you're staring up the whole time. It's everybody look down and pick some of that. That's how you get the stuff.
And that tree of life that you were gifted and that you are sharing with people now, you're going to go more in depth with that and reshare that on your new venture that you're doing?
Absolutely.
Because I really want more people to access that and think about it. It's kind of like the Kabbalion. Like, you can read it no matter who you are, and you're going to get something out of it. It might not all click with you right away, but like, it's important for you to expose yourself to it. And I feel the same about this tree of life.
Exactly. And this tree, it gives you an entire understanding of how you work as a person and how your energies move. And they have changed it. It's what is so outstanding is we call this the unbroken Yggdrasil.
I love that.
Because the other trees, they have cut the root off them and they've cut the Godhead off.
So that's important for people listening to realize. If you think you know what the tree of life is, you do know what the tree of life is, but not this tree of life. It's different.
Exactly. My tree of life is something that specifically Odin gave me, and it doesn't match any other trees of life. And
because they hid it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To take away your power. And even all the ancient symbology fits in my tree. I can tell you how things work in the different stories because of it, and I will.
Yes.
We
That's
had
awesome.
a 2-year radio run in order to do this. So, and possibly TV, which I'm absolutely looking forward to because so much of it's very visual.
Yeah, especially that tree. People need to see it. So what is the radio show and the TV show that you're going to be doing?
So the TV show will be Odin's Alchemy. Hail Odin.
Hello, Odin.
And Odin for helping bring this to me and giving me these things to share and helping change my life and understanding of the world to even help spread it. And the TV and it is on thecauldron.net.
Thecauldron.net
Is the station that is going to air it. This is an all pagan station. It's been around for a very long time. Is extremely well known. Is actually the #1 pagan music station in the world, and
Wow.
holds the pagan music festival. Has all kinds of different programs that they do and festivals and whatnot. They have a number of other shows that happen on the weekends, and then during the week it just plays radio just like a normal station. So this is just absolutely amazing.
That's so
And
cool.
then
So what's your show called?
my show will be called Odin's Alchemy.
Odin's Alchemy. I love it.
You bet. And then she also owns a television station called The Edge that very possibly we could be that it'll be aired on that. So while I'm recording it, I'm going to record it on video.
Cool.
And most likely it's going to then just get transferred over into The Edge also.
So can people find The Edge on YouTube, or do they have to go to the Cauldron?
That's a television station.
You have to watch TV to get it.
Yeah. Well, not on the internet TV.
Oh, okay.
Like Amazon.
Streaming.
I believe it's also on Amazon. It's a stream.
Oh, cool.
It's on Amazon also. Yeah,
cool.
like it's a lot of things. Like I've been very inundated in all these things, so I'm gonna mess some of these up. I promise. And
well, kind of hit you all at once. There are people who are like, wait, look at this guy. Let's give him all this shit.
Exactly. That's our 4th episode, and that is the tree episode came out. And already we had caught a lot of attention. In the tree one, again, nobody else has this. And Odin gave this specifically to me. And it caught all kinds of attention. And suddenly I'm getting interviews and things to do. Can you see me? Because I'm getting a green thing.
Nope, I got you. We can see you.
Okay. And so this immediately caught attention, and everything has just been like somebody kicked a snowball down a hill avalanche since then.
Seriously.
You bet. So so the Edge TV, and then she's also got a magazine called The Witch's Brew, which they are talking I might write some articles for in the near future.
Awesome.
And going to be writing a book here also.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Right.
And it's going to have images in it, right? Because we want to see the tree.
Absolutely.
Let people be able to see it.
Yeah, without the imagery on that, it's so hard to explain it.
Right.
Because once you see it, you can see how magically it fits together and how it makes absolute sense. Yes. And when you start doing that and comparing it to other things, you can easily see where they went wrong with it.
Right.
And then you can also, when you start understanding how it works, you can start speculating as to why they did it the way they did it, and that this wasn't particularly an accident.
Right.
That you've been left powerless on purpose.
Engineered to make you the least likely to figure it out and the least powerful.
Exactly.
I remember when you were trying to explain to me, I think when you were first sort of envisioning this or being given that idea, and you were explaining it to me, and I was like following you, but I was kind of like, I don't really get this and that. And then when you like finally drew it for me, I was like, click.
Exactly.
You know? That's why I'm so focused on people.
Once you've seen the pieces go together, it's like magic. But it is a very visual thing.
And it unlocks all this stuff. Like when I first like saw it and started looking at it and talking to you, I started like going off in all these other directions in my mind and like following all these threads, and they all tied back into it. And it was just like, it is like a magical symbol. Exactly.
And that's, again, brings us back to what we said at the beginning. It seems like a discordant note sometimes until you put it into the symphony.
Yes.
And things that fit into the symphony, they were obviously right, because the symphony is beautiful like it is for a reason.
Right.
And when you start backing up and looking at the symphony and you're like, is this going to fit into it? No, because you got to see that it doesn't fit, how it fits into the whole. And everything just becomes this beautiful web.
Yes.
And which brings us to the web of weird, which is the web inside of the tree and how energy moves.
Ooh. I love that.
Exactly.
Well, so what do you see as the most likely future for humanity? Let's say like this tree is now here, right? And that starts like trickling out to people. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
If we decide to start taking back our own responsibility and understanding that we have this power, that we can just decide to go plant the flowers if we want to see flowers in the spring,
Plant
that
the
we can just go
flowers.
plant them. Right. When we start doing that, we're going to start taking away all the power that they have, because when we expect them to be the ones planting the flowers, they have the power. We just got to shut up and take what they give us.
Yes.
When we start taking that back, the world is going to change, and we're going to start shutting down and becoming more self-sufficient. And we're going to lose the anger because we feel confident in ourselves and that we actually have say-so in our world.
Yeah.
We're going to lose our anger, and we're going to start seeing people actually live a life, not yearning for this virtual reality box, which the ether, even the love and light, they want the same thing. They want to be in this. They feel no pain. They experience no life. Everything's an idea. They all want exactly.
Yeah.
That's all they're asking for is a simulation. And when people start living life, they will find the joy in that life again, find the meaning in it, and the love of it. And the world will start becoming beautiful again. We hate this world, and we wonder why it's such an ugly place.
True. That's a good point. We're creating what we are feeling.
Exactly.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Exactly. The fire only burns away what you are not.
Yeah.
It just burns the dross. It doesn't burn the good stuff.
So what's your advice to people who are trying to live their best and truest life that they could possibly live?
One of my biggest advices is look and ask yourself. Go into your own head and look at what you do throughout the day. That quit making that disconnect that, oh, well, this sucks, but I just got to go through it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to give me the life I want. No, start creating that life you want. Don't get me wrong. There's no such thing as a life that does not have things that you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
But
some things are going to hurt. Some things are going to be hard.
That's part of what makes the enjoyable parts so enjoyable.
It's true. Literally, you can't experience enjoyment without pain, or
exactly.
They go hand in hand.
If I hadn't tasted something that tasted like shit, I wouldn't also taste something that tasted amazing. Yep. Everything would be like Matrix, that grits or whatever that just, it has
like slop.
Yeah, you can't have the good without the bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't go out there and do it, you don't get any of it. You're the guy eating the slop, and I don't want slop.
No.
I want to reach for the stars, and I also want to feel like hell when it fails, when things don't go right. And then I want to reach for the stars again.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys need to do, and understand that power is absolutely inside you. It's not something that starts tomorrow. Quit putting contingencies. Next week, when I get this done, when I get done with college, when I get to retirement, all life, everybody wants to, when I get done with high school, when I get trained in this, I will be happy when this happens. What you need to do is decide that you're going to be happy and just start building that life that you like. The shit that you like, build it. If it's good for you and makes good things in your life, do that and make it happen.
Yeah.
Take your own responsibility.
Yeah. And it really is. It pays off immediately. I mean, you can go outside right now and sit somewhere and put your feet in the grass and get quiet. And you can connect with something that you probably thought you never could. Anybody can. None of this is off limits to anybody. Exactly.
Or something so simple as, I would like to see flowers next year. I would like my personal favorite flower, and partially because it only lasts for a very short time, is lilies. I love lilies. And if I would like to see some lilies next year and enjoy them, well, then I plant some lilies right now and get going on that. And then next year, like magic, lilies will appear, and I will get to enjoy that 2-day span that they're beautiful.
Right.
And appreciate that.
That's another important thing I think people forget is there is no true instant gratification. If there is, there's probably something really wrong and pretty destructive about it, right? You have to actually put in some work and then spend the time with it for it to come to fruition. But that is the best possible experience.
Like those lilies, if it's truly wonderful, it's not going to last forever.
True.
Those lilies, part of their beauty is that I spent 363 days wishing I saw that lily bloom, and the 2 days that I did were glorious.
You're like saying that and I can like feel it in my heart. I'm like, oh, it's so good.
It is. I have
It
lilies
is.
everywhere on my property. I have
But
Mariposa lilies. Oh,
that's the part of the stuff that you're
beautiful.
saying, like it doesn't last forever, but like that feeling that I just felt, like that obviously like is a real feeling, right? That lasts forever,
Exactly.
you
That
know?
forever. And it's something that inspires you to, hey, next year I would like to see them lilies again.
Yeah.
And inspires you to keep doing things like that. And hey, not only do I like lilies, I like this. And you start doing things that are just going to benefit your life in the future rather than getting that instant gratification. Like one of the things that I did, a lot of people don't realize how much work it was for me. They think, oh, you're so lucky to go live off grid and
Yeah.
have that life. Nobody thought my life was lucky while I was building it. I
Yeah.
promise. There was a lot of getting yelled at for that from the people around me.
Yeah.
You know, that was not wonderful. But every time I want water, so I start putting in water reservoirs and putting in a big pump. And now the big pump has reservoirs. And now I put in a pressure pump. So now all of a sudden, magically, I have pressured water all the time, and it is good. And oh, I liked that. Now I can go move on to this and make, instead of these things that just you go out and buy a toy that isn't something that continues to benefit your life. We've decided to become this Walmart people that we go buy something from Walmart that makes us happy for 12 minutes. Now it's broke. And that is it. There's no like journey and no yearning and earning it to that. And so there's no life to it. It's garbage.
Agreed. That fleeting garbage that fills our lives.
Exactly.
So what are your final words of wisdom that you would want to tell to the people listening all over the world?
Just take responsibility for yourself and understand that your neighbors are, despite the small differences, are pretty much like you.
Yeah.
If you get out and go start talking to the people around you and shut off the stupid box, be it the TV or the internets, and shut it off and come to realize that when you walk outside, 99% of those things on those boxes has no application in your life. And you were putting energy and emotion into something that did you no benefit and is nothing for you. Now, you shut those off and you start paying attention and observing things in your life, the things you do, you'll start observing how they interact with each other and whether that's going to provide a much better thing in your life. Get out of that box.
Yeah. I love that. That's also the second time today that someone has talked about like your neighbors, literally your neighbors, like go outside and talk to your people. And they don't have to all like agree with you about conspiracy or like Odin or the tree of life or whatever. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like jump into that to connect with somebody and to share a very simple connection with them is some of the most powerful shit you can do. And I feel like that's a lot of our reality has been engineered to keep us disconnected from each other. And so one of the basic ways we can fight back against that is to connect with each other intentionally.
Exactly.
And not everyone is, roses and fucking gold and fun to be around, but like,
but
neither
that's
are
what
you.
That's what makes the ones that are roses. If you did not meet the ones that were bad, again, we would end up with that mush, and honestly, flavorless mush.
And you're helping them become roses by like exposing yourself to them, so that this connection I think is like vitally important. And that's part of what you're doing too in your ventures, right? Where you're going to go out and you're going to share with this. You're literally connecting with people and you're creating community there. That's very important. So to wrap it all up, tell us where we can find more of that stuff coming out and when we can find it and how to find more of Ben.
So if you wanted to watch the show and experience the radio progress, that's going to be at thecauldron.net. The is included in there. Okay. Thecauldron.net. And there's also a television station called The Edge, although I'm not on that yet. If you want to get if you wish to get a hold of me, my email is odinsalchemy@gmail.com and Benjamin Balderson on Facebook. And I spend quite a bit of time in the Eyes Open group room on Facebook, so feel free to ask to come on in and chat away. It's closed.
If you're an awesome person.
You bet. It's only closed to keep away the weirdos.
Right.
The Facebook trolls. But just because you feel your opinion's different, that's not what stops us.
Nope.
We just stop the trolls. We want the different opinions.
Yes.
So you bet.
And trigger warning, you're going to find all kinds of ideas in there.
Oh, yes. We are
That's the beauty of it.
There's no gloves. Gloves are off. Not for kids.
Right.
Every idea is ran through the mill.
As well as jokes and meaningless stuff, too. We're not all serious all the time.
Exactly. But the more that you just start living the life that you're talking about, in my opinion, that is the huge difference with gurus. They don't walk the path.
Yeah.
They talk. When you just start walking, then things change.
I think also gurus like hold themselves separate, right? Separate and above. And it's like,
right.
I mean, you might have more knowledge than somebody in different areas and you may have more skills and whatever, and that's cool, but you're not above, right?
Exactly. Well, and it's always got to be this mystical thing, because if you're just walking, like when I do the actual alchemy program, when people watch it, they're like, oh, well, that wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
I know it's not. I never said it was. It's the magic gurus that I have this mystical, your life will be better when you hear me talk.
Yeah.
Like, no, just do the work and make some observations, take your own damn power back, and then your life will be better.
It's not some like cryptic symbolic message where like in the end, you're really just saying, put one foot in front of the other. You're actually just like showing them how to put one foot in front of the other.
Precisely.
I love it.
You will do what you will with it.
That's such a valuable thing. So when does your first show air?
My first show airs on Saturday.
Woo!
So
this coming Saturday?
This coming Saturday at 9:00 Eastern time.
What is that, the 11th?
The 12th.
Yeah.
Yep. So you are, which very appropriate number right there, right?
Awesome.
And so, yeah, you are the last public thing I'm going to be doing, while this week I'm getting ready to shoot and get Why don't you come over here and say hi, Scotty, baby?
Yeah, show your face.
Come here,
we
baby.
Want to know you.
She's so big. Come here, baby. Oh, she hears somebody out on the sidewalk, I think. Come here. Sky.
Someday we got to get her back on, because we saw her as a puppy on some earlier show of Rogue Wags.
Yes, you guys saw her right away when she was just a little pup, and she's a tank now and pregnant.
Oh wow.
So, you bet that's her puppy, yes.
Hey, if you keep one for me until June, I just might snag one of those puppies.
I think that's going to have to happen, because especially with you traveling and whatnot, that just seems exactly right.
Safer.
I
would love that.
You bet. So thank you very much, Lindsay. And I could not be more excited. And the shows you've been having, just amazing. Life this year. I know so many people are, everything's against us this year. I'm sorry. I am on the entire opposite page. I'm like, woo!
Shit's moving forward.
You bet.
I agree. I'm with you.
This year's going to be fire. I'm here to see some things change. So
let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to the sagacious Benjamin Balderson. Thank you, my brother from another dimension, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Love you, Lindsay.
I love you. There is a mystery everywhere and hidden truth in the depths we are told to stay away from, lest we drown in them. But friends, the more we go diving, we find we were lied to. We could always breathe underwater. And in fact, doing so is what allows us to dredge up our hidden power and bring it to the surface. If we are brave enough and bold enough, we can remember what we lost so long ago, and we find we had it here with us all along.
I locked Christy out.
There's a party going on there. So don't ever let them convince you. Don't ever let them convince you that you will drown. You are meant to ascend back up to the heights once you've uncovered what lies in your depths. I look forward to your ascension. And as always, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.